There's a school in Dulwich, the James Allen's Girls' School, which seems to encapsulate some of the issues which are likely to be affecting other private schools in the coming months, years, as Labour continues to sort of ratchet up its plans for grabbing money for education from private schools, from putting up VAT. And even the anticipation of it seems to be producing chaos. Now, the reports are very keen to stress that the disputes over changes in employment contracts and working conditions are the issue rather than a direct result of VAT on private schools. But the coincidence is too striking to ignore. The cleaners who clean James Allen's Girls' School are members of United Voices of the World, a UVW, and are protecting and are protesting that their working weeks have been reduced from 33 out of 52 to 38, which they argue is unfair and was implemented without proper consultation. And although the introduction of VAT on school fees and increased employer contributions to the teachers' pension scheme have caused financial pressures to independent schools, the school's administration claims vigorously that the changes to the cleaners' contracts are due to altered cleaning needs during school holidays rather than anything else. The dispute is framed as an issue between the cleaning contractor, DB Services, and its employees. But the whole point about a school is it's supposed to act as an example to its students and to the parents who use the school about good practice. This can't be good practice. This is abusive. The financial strain, therefore, on private schools impedes its sort of progress, and it's throwing up cracks in the woodwork, such as the VAT and school fees that indirectly affects various aspects of school operations, including outsourcing and employment practices. In this case, while the VAT may not be the direct cause, the broader financial challenges faced by the school could contribute to cost-cutting measures affecting contracted workers like cleaners. I remember when I was at school, the cleaners were in both my schools. When I'm looking back at it, and I was having lunch with somebody, with an old school friend the other day, and we were both agreeing that the cleaners were the one source of safety and serenity in both schools. I went to a little school when I was 8, 7, something like that, and the school was deeply violent, and the cleaners were lovely. And I remember in the first week when I wasn't allowed to eat because my hands weren't clean. In fact, it wasn't my hands, it was my entire body. I was covered in blue ink. I looked like some primitive Briton covered in woad. And the reason was very simple. I had never used an ink pen before. I was left-handed. My ink went everywhere. It went in my hair, went down my legs. And the Latin teacher, who was also the person who presided over lunch and breakfast and dinner, refused to allow me into the dining room, the refectory, to eat until I was clean. So I was busy scrubbing with a pumice stone and until my hands were raw, and indeed they were bleeding, because I just couldn't get this permanent blue ink off my hands. It was horrible. Anyway, the cleaners and the who also doubled as the dining room staff were extremely kind and fed me. and there was another boy who was terribly thin, and who was who I believe was anorexic, and he was forced to stay behind and eat. So I was being denied food, and he was being made to eat food. And it was just horrible and savage, and children being beaten all over the place or being threatened with beating. And, you'd go to bed at night and you'd hear children crying into their pillows. And that was a school which was linked to a religious order that was exposed on the television for sexual abuse. And in fact, that school as well. Brother Collins or something, he used to go around the place with a shotgun, an air rifle, shooting children who didn't run fast enough. It was brutal. As I say, the cleaners were a source of security, and some of the cleaners were treated appallingly. There was one lady who was treated so badly she left a little, I think, personal deposit in a tin box under a bath, and it stayed there for a while. It sounds odd, but that was the reality. How do you get round an institution which is inflexible? And maybe dirty protests are all you've got left. But you know, a school is bigger. A school is bigger than just the teachers and the pupils. It's a little universe of its own, and in all aspects of its institution, it should be promoting good practice and teaching others how to do it. And if it's going to be abusive to its employees, whether they're contracted directly or indirectly by the school, then the school isn't doing its job properly, and it's setting a bad example. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the former pupils of James Allen's girls' school get in touch and protest vigorously about the treatment of these cleaners, not least because they are also foreign cleaners, cleaners who've come from other countries who are probably doing their first job here and who are on a minimum wage, and they're being treated appallingly. Is that the message we want to hand out? And just down the road is Dulwich School itself, with an amazing picture gallery, which ultimately hails from the King of Poland. And you know, we are surrounded by so much to value, and yet the lesson we are getting is that we don't value one another.